Hello, friends. I wanted to answer a question that I received the last time that I kind of requested questions. And it was one that was discussing the difference between tarot and then also oracle decks. So there's a lot of different card systems out there. The most familiar ones for most people are going to be tarot and then also oracle decks, which are going to be this top row. And then these are the three tarot decks. So the thing with tarot decks is that they usually follow the structure of traditional tarot, which is a 78 card deck. So this is the Aquarian Tarot by David Palladini. This is a small size, which I really enjoy. And so it's going to feature all of the familiar cards that we see in media, just like the High Priestess, the Fool, the Moon. And so these cards have their own kind of structure. Can you read them like oracle cards? Yes, of course. You can read tarot in any way, shape, or form that you would prefer. There's various books out there, various information, different ways of wanting to read the decks. And there's also different ways and familiarity with certain tarot deck styles. So this is more of the RWS or Rider Waite Smith kind of style of cards. So this is a just pretty familiar sort of thing. And this is mass produced, as is this one, which is the Universal Waite Tarot. Again, as you can see, there's the Hermit, the Knight of Pentacles. So they follow this certain structure where you have the major arcana and then also the minor arcana. And I may be mispronouncing that, so don't come for me if that's the case here. As you can see, they have that same sort of, the familiar images that we're used to seeing, the Three of Swords, the Chariot. It's colorful. And so within that, you can also order or find, your own tarot deck that maybe is indie printed or independently done. Sorry if there's dog hair on everything. So this is the Spacious Tarot by Carrie Mellon and Annie. I am not going to even try to mispronounce that last name. Ruikt. And so this one is kind of breaking away from the traditional images. But as you can see, there is still that kind of familiarity. The Elder of Pentacles, there's the Ace of Swords, the Nine of Swords, things like that. So there's still that familiar kind of aspect to things, but they've kind of taken a little bit of a creative direction in how they have kind of interpreted the court cards. So this is the Explorer of Cups, which I think that would be the Knight of Cups traditionally. So as you can see, you can find a deck that really speaks to you or find artwork that you feel comfortable doing, but more than likely they're always going to have that 78 kind of card structure. And so that's why traditional tarot is something that a lot of people maybe feel overwhelmed with. And so they feel like it's too much. They have to memorize things when you can kind of go the oracle route. And the thing with oracle cards is they don't have to follow any specific structure. They can have as little as 20 cards all the way up to 78 cards or even 80 cards. This one is a interesting mix because I learned to read tarot first, and when I first was kind of getting into oracle cards, I kind of gravitated towards angel cards, and then after a while I kind of felt like they were too positive and too kind of like rainbows and puppy breath and unicorns and things like that. And so it wasn't always giving me enough of the kind of straight upness that you kind of receive with tarot decks. So I ended up finding this deck by John Holland, which is the Psychic Tarot. So if you're like, well, this says tarot, yes, it follows a very similar structure to tarot, but there's only 65 cards within this deck. And so he has removed the court cards, he has removed the tens out of this deck, and then he also has replaced it with chakra cards, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while since I've used this deck. And he's kind of relabeled the cards. So here is what would be traditionally the Four of Swords, and this is Rest and Rejuvenate. And so I think that this is a good kind of breakaway for someone that maybe is wanting to kind of find an oracle deck that they would like to use, but maybe really prefers the structure of tarot. And then there's also those that maybe are kind of moving from only oracle decks that would like to kind of utilize tarot, but maybe feel a little bit overwhelmed. So you have kind of that blend of the two. He also has a deck called the Psychic Tarot for the Heart, which I really enjoy, and I think it's fantastic because it is more relationship based, and it is the deck that I typically use for all of my relationship readings. And I just find that it's a really great kind of learning tool. I think it's a great beginner deck. And I think it reads really well. As you can see, mine has been well loved. I've owned it for like 10 years. I don't even know. And I use it a lot. And I think it's a really great deck if you're looking for that kind of bridge between tarot and then also oracle decks. The next deck that I think is fantastic to kind of show you how oracle decks can be, this is another mass-produced deck by Hay House, is this one by Kyle Gray. This is the Angels and Ancestors Oracle card deck. And there's some really interesting kind of differences, as you can see. When we look at traditional tarot, we have this kind of structure, the Knight of Pentacles. You can utilize a book that could kind of tell you, what does this mean? You can devise your own meanings. With these, you can either read them intuitively or you can utilize the information in the book to kind of guide you. As you can see, there's messages in here that can kind of help you understand what the purpose was of each of these kind of figures. When we think of spring, you can talk about, Ostara, you can talk about Easter, you can talk about, things of that nature. So it's really interesting how depending on the oracle deck, what direction you can kind of utilize the cards. There's also oracle decks for everything if you want something super specific like life purpose or past lives or, just mystical. There's different themes, and that's the beauty with oracle cards, is that they don't have to really follow any sort of structure, and you can utilize them a lot more intuitively. So if you are someone that feels more comfortable reading intuitively, oracle cards are a great way to go. Another great thing about oracle cards is that there's so many independently published decks out there. And so this is a fantastic one. This is 50 cards from Marcella Kroll. And this is the Sacred Symbols Oracle deck. This is her 3rd edition. And that's another beautiful thing about watching your friends kind of develop their own things. Because, sometimes they have their 1st edition that can change so much between, what they can do as they continue publishing. So there's different symbols in this because it's talking about sacred symbols. So she takes symbols from various cultures, familiar sort of witchy things, I guess, if you want to call it that, the occult. And so there's, when we think of transformation, there's a butterfly, air, water, soulmates. And so there's so many ways that you can kind of go in so many directions that you can kind of head into when it comes to oracle cards. Literally, if there is something that you are interested in, you are more than likely find a tarot deck or an oracle deck that kind of fits that theme or whatever it is that you're interested in. So get out there, discover what it is that speaks to you, find something that you like, because more than likely, if you pick a deck that you actually like, whether it's the images, whether it's the messages, you're going to be more drawn to utilizing it more and developing a relationship with it. I like to look at all of my decks, not just as card and paper, but as an extension of my intuition. I like to utilize them as divination tools, and so I treat them with respect. I give them their space. I utilize them whenever I feel called to use them, depending on the client and the situation. So I hope that this kind of brings you a little bit of clarity and that it, helps you kind of find something that you feel comfortable using and start exploring your more mysterious and intuitive side. Thank you.